twice. It's speaking to you tonight. You'll hear a second.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? It is May 7th, 2021. I'm feeling a little bit better about life today. Don't hold your breath. I still have to go to work. So we'll see how I feel about that at 9 o'clock. Today I am bringing you a book review on Necromancy, The Forbidden Art by Lucien Rofocale by Dark Moon Press, which is printed here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Me being in Indianapolis. But, yay, Indiana. This book is listed under Demons and Occultism. It is $9.99, so it's very inexpensive. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon or order it on Barnes & Noble or wherever. But I happened to pick up my copy at the Luciferian Apotheca, which you saw in the unboxing video. So, I have never heard of Lucien Rofocale. This is new to me. But from reading this entire book, I am thoroughly impressed. He has done his history. He has done his homework. And he wrote this book the same way Natasha Helbin wrote her book, Slavic Witchcraft. Easy to understand, but not dumbed down. He used an easier way to explain it without having to be like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't understand. Speak English. So if you are a beginner, like I am, into the ways of the necromancer, even though I've been doing necromancy for 20 or 10 some odd years when I bought my first Ouija board, but getting serious into the other ways of it, this book is definitely a must-read. And most of the book is on what is necromancy, the roots of necromancy, the infernal rites of the dead, the black art, summoning spirits, learning to deal with the spirits, and then tools of the necromancer, and then you have the afterword. So around 53 pages, or at least the first 4 chapters of this book, are on information. It isn't until we get to summoning spirits that we start to get into the crux of the biscuit. And he talks about, like, what is necromancy, comparing it to what it really is and what Hollyweird makes it out to be, and how, necromancers were technically part of the role of being a shaman in your village or tribe. And then he goes into talking about John Dee. I'm going to butcher that guy's name, but Euphaius Levi. I think, Euphaius Levi. And then a big chunk of it is on the Christianity and how hypocritical it is for them to condemn people of practicing necromancy, yet they themselves are practicing necromancy. And how they were like, no, you're evil. We must kill you. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I learned was the word Nigromancy. Nigro Mancy. Which goes into saying that this is, black magic. Because it's interchangeable with another. Yeah, here, I just passed it. Right here. As far as the witch craze was concerned, there was no distinction between someone who practiced witchcraft and someone who practiced unlicensed necromancy without the sanction and power of the church. Hypocrisy. You could not work magic. Anything else was considered an infernal art. Those who practiced unsanctioned magic were invariably considered to be in league with Satan and working ultimately toward the destruction of one true church. Scientology? In fact, the word necromancy was at one point completely interchangeable with the word negromancy, a catch-all term for any of the black arts in general. See, I did not know that. I never heard of this word at all. And I looked it up, and yeah, it is a umbrella term. And I found that quite informative. So, does that mean we're practicing nigromancy instead? I don't know. A lot of witches today, they don't like labels, but they use labels. Just saying. However, from what I've been reading outside of this book, nigromancy is more aimed towards necromancy. Like he said, it's interchangeable with the word, but usually when we say black magic or black arts, we think of infernal summonings, the blasphemous goetic demons and the crazed old man in the tower or his basement, which is a really lavish summoning room, summoning Asmodai. So, oh, and he does mention Cornelius Agrippa. And then in Infernal Rites of the Dead, we go into what necromancers used to do back in the old days. And it wasn't pleasant. Being in a graveyard or cemetery on Christmas Eve during the Mass and all that, digging up and taking some pieces of the deceased and reciting incantations, which he does provide in the book on page 39. There's quite a few. Of course, this is according to Agrippa's works, but, Hey, if you want to find out what these are, I suggest you buy the book. I'm not going to give it all away, but it is written in English, and it's quite actually easy to remember. In black art, we see that we see again, we go with the back and forth of medieval Europe, Christians, and comparison to the Greek and Roman. And it's just basically more history on back and forth. And the sanctioning, believe it or not. But now we get to the crux of the biscuit. Summoning spirits. Now, in this chapter, he tells you, what summoning spirits is, what it's like, what to expect, and initiating contact. And then more incantations. And then, the ghostly presence when you have made your contact. And then closing the session when you are done summoning this spirit. Send them back on their way. And then he says you can keep them around as long as they do no harm. But we get into the chapter of learning to deal with spirits, which he does say, hey, if you're going to cause trouble, I'm going to send you back. And you want to be, you want to be bold. You want to be brave. You don't want to be scared. There's very few moments where a spirit will be hostile. But, he says, use caution, be practical. You want to take the time to get to know the entity. Just don't summon up, hey, I summon you. Tell me everything. Tell me the secrets of the universe. Tell me where there's treasure. No, he's saying, you want to take the time and be like, hi, my name is Mad Magician Karos, or Karos. How are you? Your name is Bob? Okay, Bob. Let's get to know each other. And as you summon Bob more and more, you get to know him. You build that rapport with him. Just like, a flesh and blood living person. And then he becomes a personal spirit to you. And then we get to Tools of the Necromancer. Dun dun! I found this chapter quite exciting, but a pain in my ass. Now, this chapter, he goes into, the stuff that you will need, like bones and stuff. Which, by the way, I want to go directly to be sure to look up your state and or country or region laws of owning deceased remains. I cannot stress this enough. This is important. There's like 3 states here in the United States. I think Louisiana, Georgia, and New York. You're not allowed to own human remains, like bones. Don't quote me. I'm just trying to remember what it was. I don't have the time or patience to look it up. But you can easily go to the website, the Bone Room, and it will tell you. It's where you can buy human bones and animal bones and all that. So, cannot stress that enough. You don't want to get in trouble. You want to have your paperwork. The first tool he talks about is the flute of bone, where you take a bone, the femur, and you turn it into a flute. He tells you how to decorate it, tells you how to construct it, and how you can carve it, sand it, and drill holes while putting your intent into it. And honestly, the work that he goes into it, because he even gives you preparation. It doesn't have to be a leg bone. It could be any bone for that matter. But you have to remove the marrow and hollow it out. And the idea of this is pretty damn cool. Once you get past preparation, you got construction. And then all of that. You can stain it with the beef blood if you buy an animal bone. But honestly, this is the most frustratingly difficult one because you got to do a lot of things, especially sanitizing it. Will I be making a bone flute? Probably not. I have various other ways. The next tool is the spirit sensor, which is a sensor that can be any weighted object that is depended from a string and hung in an area where you plan on working regularly with spirits, basically for me in my bedroom. The spirit sensor should be heavy enough that it will not be set into motion. So like if you got a fan or the air conditioner or you got a window open or by the door to your room or what have you, by a simple disturbance in the air, but light enough that it will not take a spirit too much effort to set it swinging. And when I read that, I immediately remembered that scene from the movie Ghost, starring Patrick Swayze, where he meets another ghost on that subway train, and he's causing a ruckus, and he teaches Patrick Swayze, hey, focus all your energy into moving that object. That was back before Whoopi Goldberg became a, well, I'm not going to say it. Then he goes into the construction of the spirit sensor and any gemstone or stones you want to put on there. Then he goes into the offering bowl. You can make an offering bowl where you can put your energy into it. I mean, we pretty much know what an offering bowl here is anyway, right? So, but last but not least, the one I find quite interesting is the spirit bottle. Now, he does not advocate the reckless binding of spirits. However, sometimes a particularly ill-tempered entity comes along, and there are really few other options for dealing with it. Quote, unquote. And he goes on to saying that in this case he makes a spirit bottle. He makes a reference to the possible earliest record of this was with King Solomon. And tells you on how to construct the vessel, clean it, consecrate it. And basic stuff, you know. Then it goes into an afterword after that, because it's a really short process on the spirit bottle. And I'm not going to tell it to you because I want you to read it for yourself. And honestly, if you can read this in a day without being disturbed or have to hide from somebody that you don't want to know doesn't want you to know that you're doing magic, you can get this done in a day. Probably an hour and a half or 2 hours, depending on how fast you read and the surrounding area. This took me like 10 days to read because I had a few days where I didn't read. So, but I could have knocked it out in a night if I really wanted to. But I say buy this book. It is definitely a great beginner book. Again, he doesn't dumb it down. He comes at you with, like you are an intelligent person. But he doesn't make it too complicated. And honestly, don't take just him. Go out there and look at other people's books. And you will know if someone's full of shit. Like, just out to make a quick buck. You will know. But I didn't feel like that this was the case. Lucien Rofocale knew what he was doing when he wrote this book. And is this the end-all be-all? No. Like I said, go out there, explore other people's works. But, use your discretion. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. If you want to come find me, I am on social media. And if anyone's still out there, still listening, I love y'all.